This show is sponsored by Mighty Capital, the go to venture capital firm for product first companies like Airbnb and Amplitude. Learn why they are dubbed the best value for the dollar invested at mighty.capital. I'm SC Moadi, founder and chair of Products That Count, a 501c3 nonprofit engaging over 500,000 product managers. Our mission is simple: help you build great products through groundbreaking research, prestigious awards, and top-notch programming like this award-winning Top 1% podcast. Whether you're aiming to boost your career or turn your product team into a competitive advantage, this is your gateway. Visit productsthatcount.org and begin your product leadership journey. This particular series is hosted by one of the first chief product officers in the world, Renee Niemi, and each episode is a masterclass in product leadership. Renee, over to you.
Today, I have with me the one and the only Olivier Houpert from Altria. He is the Chief Product and Innovation Officer at Altria. Welcome, Olivier. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be with you as well, Renee.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me start by saying congratulations on being a finalist in our top CPO award this year. Really looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better. Before we dive into the meaty questions, why don't we spend 60 seconds or less learning a little bit about you, your story, your role, your current role at Altria, and maybe why don't you let us know what Altria does?
Absolutely. So let me start with where I come from. I was born and raised in France many, many years ago. Grew up in a very small town in the Champagne area. I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen to the rest of my life. And here I am, several decades after Chief Innovation Product Officer in the largest US tobacco company, Altria. I spent the majority of my career, 30 plus years, at another US company, Procter Gamble, where I was vice president of R&D, and also the site leader for Procter Gamble's Innovation Center in Brussels, Belgium. And I joined Altria 2 years ago as Chief Innovation Product Officer. Um, People ask me, why on earth would you do that? And the short answer is I was given a unique opportunity to change this company, to have a positive impact on the world by helping Altria accelerate its transition to smokeless products and to innovate beyond nicotine in places where the company has never been present before. And I felt this was a fantastic opportunity to leave a legacy. So I jumped on it and not regretted every single second of it.
Wow, that's I cannot wait to learn a little bit more. But that's a big role, and it sounds like you've had a very successful career. So congratulations on that. Obviously, there's been a lot of change over the last 3 to 5 years with the pandemic, specifically in your industry. Although we won't dive specifically into any details, but I guess what I would love to kind of kick off our discussion is when you look at this next year, how are you thinking about spending your personal time strategically, and what are the most important things? What are you most looking forward to tackling this year?
Yeah, great question. What I will say is for this year, the year to come, I will be 100% focused on accelerating Altria's transition to smoke free products and non nicotine products. Our company is undergoing a complete transformation. We have recently unveiled our company purpose, which I will read to you: elevating the everyday, one moment at a time. And that's what I'm committed to do. What that means is creating product solutions to help adult smokers, 21 years of age and above, transition from cigarettes to smoke-free product or um, other non-nicotine products, and then also help the company create a completely new product portfolio that will be defining the future of our company. Um, so that's my focus. It's creating the future and driving change. Um,
Wow. I definitely get this feel of a mission driven purpose from you. Tell me a little bit more why this is so important to you.
well, I told you I spent 30 years at Procter and Gamble before, and Procter and Gamble is a purpose-driven company. Their purpose, short version of it, is improving um, consumers' lives, and that has meant so much to me in my career. When I saw what I could do to improve people's lives by just improving their everyday products, making their daily chores easier, solving problems thanks to superior products. Um, I felt that when I joined Altria, my first question to our CEO was, "So what's our company purpose?" Because I looked everywhere, um, in the documents I was given or the website I was given access to, and I couldn't find one. So I asked him, I said, so, if I'm going to be here to create our future, I need to know why we exist as a company. I need to know my permission to play. I need to know what we want to stand for. And he gave me lots of really good reasons why we didn't have one at the time. But then we ended the conversation with him telling me, how about you go figure out what it should be? So my first job was to, and I call this uncover our company purpose, because I believe you don't make it up. It has to come from the DNA of the company, and that's where we converged on elevating the everyday one moment at a time. We realized that the role we play in people's lives today is elevate that day, energize, focus, relax, um, give them that little moment of break that they aspire to when they use our products. And my aha moment when I led that work, Renee, is that I've never used nicotine products in my life. Um, However, I realized that the problems our products are solving for our current consumers, I have the same needs. I may solve it differently with different products or sometimes without products, but those needs exist amongst every consumer. And so my ambition is to help Altria to capture more of those moments of escape, relaxation. Like, I guess after this interview, I'll probably need a little break and I'll do something. And the question is, how do I make that moment even better? And how I, for Altria, turn that into value creation. So that's kind of um, my focus. Uh, and this purpose is essential to me. I need that, and I need to be able to measure that I'm contributing and my team is contributing and the enterprise to elevating that purpose every day.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. What's interesting about the purpose is it feels, inspirational, but yeah, it also gives you permission to explore new ways to solve for the purpose. It doesn't have, a single product direction in it. So, kind of given that, how do you find what's next and how do you prioritize what's next? Like walk me through your thoughts on
Yeah,
developing products for this
yeah,
mission.
excellent question. So the first thing I would say is, as you heard me say earlier, the purpose is really derived from what we believe our products do for their users today. So they help them elevate their moments. They help them escape, relax, focus, energize. And the next thing I'm inspecting is, all right, so what are our company's core competencies that can be leveraged to create new products that are, call it adjacent or close enough to our core so we have a right to win. I often have the conversation with people that said, okay, well, I'm going to take my phone here and say, well, the way I escape a little bit from my daily routine is I watch maybe Facebook, or I watch a little video on YouTube. Our core competencies are non-existent in that space. There's no way I'm going to convince our company to go and you know um, venture into mobile phones or online um, content. However, you can imagine products that are close enough to ours that maybe capitalize on our core competencies, whether it's um, you know the science of delivering actives to the body, inhalation technologies, or flavor management, or or uh,
Hmm.
and I won't disclose here the products we looking
Please
into, of
don't.
course, but that's what I'm currently busy doing, is how do I solve those problems with products that are different from the ones we sell today, but yet capitalize on some of our unique strengths and core competencies, whether it's the form factor or the method of delivery of the active, because nicotine is an active. There are many other actives that consumers use every day. I don't know if you're a coffee drinker, but caffeine would be an active that you know
Absolutely.
people
Cheers.
consume. Yes, consume in multiple forms. The most common being a cup of coffee, but some people consume it in a glass of Coke, or chew it, or a mint, or a gummy, or something. So there's many ways to deliver different actives to humans to achieve a certain, need state uh, transformation, and that's what we're currently looking at. But I said at the beginning, and I will say it again, so I don't want this to be um, forgotten, is primary mission is to help smokers who are adult 21 years of age and above transition to smokeless products like vapor or heated tobacco or pouches or any other form of nicotine consumption that is um, not causing the same health impact as cigarettes,
Right.
meaning um, so really products that are better than where they come from today. So we have a whole portfolio of products that we are developing and growing, and our ambition is to accelerate the transition of current smokers to those smokeless products.
Interesting. Do you have a particular process, or is it more gut feel invalidation when it comes to prioritizing how you're going to spend your R&D?
We're really a consumer-centric company, so I know you could use many filters, financials, scale or whatever. The primary criteria we use to decide on which opportunity to pursue is how much of a consumer problem are we solving, and um, how much of a strong response do we get from consumers on the ideas and the products that we are testing. So it's really, and then I'm not saying we don't care about the profitability, but it comes second. So we really are focused on solving consumer problems. So that's the first filter,
Hmm.
and we use all sorts of research methodology to decide on which opportunities we're gonna pursue. But I will say I've learned in my you know 35 years almost of product development experience that the first time you see a consumer reacting to a new idea, a new product, if you have something. You will have work to do to improve it, but and So I spend a lot of time doing consumer research, like physically in the field, speaking with consumers, observing consumers, seeing their reactions, not just reading reports, right? Just being there and seeing their face expression, facial expression, trying to really understand. And for me, I always say that it's not so much how many people like your new product, it's more about those who like it, how much do they like it?
Right.
So it's the intensity of liking versus the number of people, because I have lots of examples in my long career that, you know, if you have a product that really delights, even if it's a small group of consumers, it's a better place to be than a product that people like so and so, um, even if it's a larger group of consumers. It's really the intensity of liking that would make us decide to invest into something.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I do have a question as it relates to the amount of time and energy and cost associated with consumer validation, but I'm going to hold that for our AI discussion in a bit.
Hmm.
I would love to know a little bit more about you. Obviously, you've had a storied career, lots of experience. Love the background at Procter and Gamble, which is kind of like the benchmark, if you will, in the consumer packaged goods industry. I would love to know or hear a story about when you knew that you had your aha moment, that you had selected the correct career.
That's a great question because, truth being told, I didn't start my career at P&G. I started, working in the oil industry. You know, I don't know about you, but when I was, in college and finishing my studies, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I just didn't know. And shortly after I joined P&G, and I worked for 2 years in the oil industry. Didn't like it too much. I mean, it was okay. It was a highly technical job, designing oil refineries, dimensioning vessels, pipes and pumps and the rest of it. It was satisfying intellectually. But I joined P&G, and I could tell you that story because it's interesting. However, I realized that I had chosen the right career. I remember it was a defining moment. I was living in Paris, France back then. I was going to a, you know, dinner party with university friends, so we all had started our jobs and everybody was kind of talking about their job. And, so they all had prestigious employers and roles and, banks and, um, computer scientists, and some were doing postdocs, and it was like very impressive. And my came turn, and I was like, oh, I was a bit ashamed to say I was working on laundry detergents. Doesn't really come across as the most advanced field of science. But then what I will say is, after a moment of hesitation, everyone, with no exception, started to ask me tons of questions about my job, about the products. And like, they were asking out, is it true that detergents are different? Surely they're all the same. So I realized then how critical it would be for me to work on consumer products, products that people use every day, everywhere, all around the world. Um, and when you develop products that eventually millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people are going to use around the world, you're not curing cancer. That's not what I was doing. I was removing stains from, underwear and and bed sheets.
T-shirts, yeah.
But but it truly mattered to people's life. And I really, at that dinner party, I became the hero because everybody was super interested in what I was doing because they could relate to the product.
Yeah.
So that was the time where I said, I think I really want to work in consumer products and products that people use every day and that solve little problems. So, and shortly after that, I had my first child, and I realized how critical Pampers was to my life at the time, and was proud to work for the company that make Pampers, right? And because it solves pretty significant consumer problem. Doesn't
Yeah.
save lives, maybe, but it. So that was the defining moment. Whereas when I worked in the oil industry, people couldn't care less what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, people care, they just weren't interested, right?
Yeah,
Your customers
maybe.
care for sure, what you're doing. But I love that idea of impact, right? Um, I also spent time consumer electronics, not consumer packaged goods, but there's just such a visible, like just in sheer numbers, when you have a good product that you are able to make millions of people versus hundreds of people happy, and solve for their problems, and it sure is rewarding. So I really resonate with that story. Thank you for sharing it. um, Obviously, and you can just tell by you telling your story, you've made a ton of career pivots, and um, and I guess I would love to understand some insight. Like, how did you know that the career pivot was correct? How do you learn as you pivot? How do you keep yourself fresh in your skills? Like what's your philosophy on growth, personal growth?
Yeah. So I would say generally I'm extremely curious of everything, right? So I'm always asking why when I don't understand something. I'm always looking for the next level question, um, and I do that until I understand. And sometimes I don't understand. So, I move away, and I would come back maybe a few years later to the same question. Um, and I push my team to do the same, to constantly challenge the way we do our work. Really, because there's this thing, I mean, you may have experienced it, but people do their work in a certain way because that's the way they were told, and that's the way the standard operating procedure is written, so they just do it that way, and they kind of forget to question. And I'm a great believer that um, you know you can constantly reinvent the way you're doing things.
Hmm.
I've used the example with my teams in the past of in English, I'm not sure, but the high jump, how people jump above that bar. And if you look at
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
evolution of performance over the years and the breakthroughs, all the way to the Foxbury jump, is like there was really no technology involved, or maybe slightly better shoes. And and nobody back then, when they tried to jump over that bar by facing it, would imagine that you could jump in a different way.
Right.
And so I use that example just to say, for decades, maybe centuries, human beings were unable to jump above a certain height. And all of a sudden, somebody came and just decided to jump by presenting their shoulders, back of their shoulder to the bar. And all of a sudden, it was a breakthrough of, half a foot, or sometime more than that, better performance. What's next? Who says there will not be another one? So I'm always trying to ask myself, why do I do certain things in a certain way? And then try to think, has something happened recently, maybe around, not in my category of products, not in my industry, that is enabling a different view on things? And can I apply that to what I'm doing? And constantly. So I read all the time. I go to, you know, professional trade shows, I go to events, conferences, meet people. I'm part of a number of, you know, chief innovation officers networks, and we exchange view on things because I want to get inspired by some of the problems they face and solutions they may have applied that could transfer to my company, to my business, to my project. So just never stop asking why we do things in a certain way and try to find a better way.
Yeah, I
That's
love
what I
that.
try to do.
Yeah, curiosity is like core to DNA of a good leader. How do you how do you pass that on to your team and keep your team fresh and sharp?
Really by asking them the questions, by just asking them, so why did you do the work this way? How did you come to that conclusion? And have you thought of a different way? And when I get some inspiration, I know AI or Gen AI is hot at the moment, rightly so. I use some of these examples. Like I've been inspired recently by you may have heard about the Google engineers who have developed a different way of forecasting weather. Um, you know, very different from the traditional first principle based models, and yet giving a great, sometimes better accuracy with a fraction of the computing power and a fraction of the cost. So use that example. Innovation by analogy is very powerful. I use that example to them and say, well, have you considered doing this or that to answer the question you're trying to answer? I go to trade shows, I observe they had this little robot that was designed to take care take care of your pet when you're at home, right? It's a little robot that would track your pet and feed the pet, and like we have no use for that. But I just said, hey, maybe I could use that to do consumer observation, so I know when people use our products in the home. Um, and people say, oh yeah, we because we rely on questionnaires and like could this be? So it's just trying to find a parallel and push them. Just said, look, I've seen that. Go try this, and so sometimes it works. sometimes, sometimes I get a big silence as a response. But generally, I mean, and then big success for me is when people start doing that on their own.
Right.
When they start behaving that way, when they start challenging their own traditional methods, ways of working, and so how I keep them sharp is that. But some, as I say, sometimes it doesn't work, and I pivot and move to something else. But just really this curiosity, as you said, it's never stop asking why. There's always a better answer. There's always something better. Try things, and trying is key. I really push them to experiment, like fail cheap, fail quickly, try something like you know you, I think I'm a reasonably good skier, and I teach I've taught my kids and many of my friends how to ski, and I tell them if you never fall, you never
You don't.
know, you never know. And so, but then I don't take them on a black diamond slope the first time to make them fall. I take them where it's safe to fall, but
Right.
so they can feel the balance and the limit, and how do you combine speed and you know um, how you bend your body so you balance the centrifugal forces and the gravity so you can be in balance, and until you experience that, it's hard to explain. You have to try it. So you know like so anyway, I'm a believer of experimentation as well.
Yeah, I love that idea of experimentation, and if you're going to fail in the business context, to use your green and blue slope analogy, right? Fail fast, don't fail slow, and learn from it, right?
Correct,
And pick
correct.
yourself back up and keep going. Do you have any good stories on that front?
On failing fast and
It doesn't
experimenting.
have to be failing fast, but experimentation, like
Oh yeah, I
where
mean,
you encourage your team to experiment and what
oh yeah,
happened?
all the time, and more often than not we fail. But as I said, the only failure is the absence of learning. So if it's not a catastrophic failure, it's okay. So, for many years, not for a few years, not so many years, when I was at P&G, I worked on, it's interesting, you talk about career pivot. I worked on Pringles, a job I really didn't want. I really did not want to do it. And then I was talked into doing this. Um, it was a life-changing assignment for me. And I came in there with no experience of food, no experience of, you know, potato chips for sure. And I really pushed the team to experiment new ways of, designing the products, like applying some, laundry detergent analogies to where I grew up to potato chip. They thought I was crazy, but we applied some of the same concepts, and 9 times out of 10 it would fail, but the one time where it worked, it was transformative. I mean, I at the time I was really proud because I was able to launch the first, call it potato chips, Pringles.
Yeah.
So it's defined as a potato chip, but when I was in charge of it, we launched the first potato chip whose main ingredient was not potato,
Oh,
it was rice, right? So because it's a formulated dough, so you create a recipe, and then fascinating. But again, people would think like, is it crazy? You want to remove the potato and put rice instead? Well, why not? Let's try that and see how people feel about that. And the reason I was doing this is rice would absorb less fat, less saturated fat than. So when you fry it, actually the fat content was slightly
wow.
lower, and it was healthier. Therefore, I mean, if you can call that healthy, but it was healthier. And I want, I just was trying to make a better product that still tasted great, that had the right texture. So so I pushed them on, hey, let's try that, and they were like, this is never going to work. And we did many other experiments that failed, but this one worked, and we commercialized at scale, and we made some, claims on lower fat content, and it had, significant appeal. We also, like, we printed on chips. You may remember that we printed like every chip. It was a food grade ink, but every potato chip in the 100 stack of chips was printed with a quiz, like, trivia. Everyone was different, and yet we're able to produce that 200,000 chips a minute. It was like
Wow.
amazing technology. So it's like, can you print on chip? Because I could print on detergent cases and things. I said, like, we could print on the chip. No, they're gonna break. No, it's never gonna work. It worked. It was amazing. It was not the biggest commercial success, but it was fun. So I think everything's possible. By the way, it's just a
I
matter
love
of time and
those
money.
stories. And it really does bring it to life where, in a way that everybody can understand, right? I never saw the quiz chips, but boy,
Yeah,
super. I would have loved to have played
yeah,
with those. Um,
yeah.
Anyways, well, our time has gone so fast as I knew it would because you have so many great stories. I would love to wrap up our chat with just your thoughts specifically around AI and the impact of AI and the role of product management.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on both the short term and the long term on how AI is it going to replace us?
So first I would say we need to be clear on the language. AI is not new. I mean, I took realization of that many, many years ago. When I was young, I was a chess player, and the day Deep Blue beat Gary Kasparov, world champion back at the time, I knew something had happened. And what's new is Gen AI, and Gen
Right.
AI is some say more revolutionary than the internet was, when it became, I would say, available to the broader public. Now, I have a hard time even understanding that concept because, I grew up or I became an adult when the internet became, popular, and it totally changed people's lives. Um, but Gen AI is already transforming the way we do our work. Um, I give you a few examples. Consumer research. So, so we don't invent these things. We use them because some companies out there are inventing them. But like, um, we create avatars. We create a Renee and an Olivier. We teach the avatar all about ourselves, or it learns itself, and then we do consumer interviews with those bots. It's like, I mean, that's crazy. So, but we do these things already. Um, of course, AI and Gen AI for data analysis, like
Mhm.
seeing things that it would normally take months for us to find out, we can find in a split second. We are trying to, it's early days, use Gen AI for formulation work, like, like particularly in flavor management, creating a huge database of all ingredients, how you combine them, and what flavor experience you get, and then working back from the flavor you're trying to get the system to give you the right combination of ingredients to produce that, versus relying on the knowledge of a few experts. So, will it replace us? Absolutely, it will replace a lot of the tasks, the jobs we're doing today. But as I heard someone say recently at a conference, um, um, well, don't quote me on the number, but 50% or 40%, I think it was, of the jobs that exist today did not exist 30 years ago. And so I'm pretty convinced that Gen AI will obsolete some of the jobs that exist today, but I'm also very confident that there will be many other jobs that we can't even think of today that will be created as a result. So I think it it's going to be an evolution,
Yeah.
and and those who are going to embrace this and capture the power of these technologies will win. So at Altria, we're taking this very seriously. We've invested. We're not the only ones, but from what I've seen, we are in the, I would say, top group of companies who are investing in Gen AI. We've created our own Altria GPT. Every employee has been trained, or those who are willing to take the training have been trained. I use it every day. It's my homepage, right? And so, and what I do with it is incredible. I mean, use it to summarize meetings, like, so powerful. And and so right now it's mostly, Renee, for me, a productivity tool, but uh, I think we are starting to see the possibilities it opens in terms of taking us to places that we can't even imagine today, the things it can do.
Yeah.
um, whether it's marketing or product development or manufacturing. I mean, it's just, so there's been a lot of revolutions, since I'm in the workforce. Lots. I mean,
Yeah.
at one point, people came to me and say, "Oh, 3D printing is going to replace manufacturing." Well, it didn't, but it plays a role. Um, I think Gen AI is going to do much more than anything else we've seen, because it's so transformative.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Um, if I could summarize what I think I heard you say is that your belief is A, you've been using AI for a while, not new. Gen AI has the ability to make you, quicker, smarter, faster. It may replace, some roles, but the reality is it's just going to make us save time. Hopefully, that frees us time to add higher value tasks, right? Things that we can do, whether that be spend more time in front of customers, whether that be, spend more time, exploring those experiments on the what ifs that our boss Olivier keeps throwing at us. But whatever that is, right? It just gives us
Correct.
more free time to innovate. Anyways, listen, it has been so much fun getting to know you a little bit more, Olivier. Such a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for listening to me and for your great questions.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure. And again, congratulations on being a finalist. I can now see why. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. I'm very proud. You have a great weekend.
This is SC Moadi again, founder and chair of Products That Count. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on your favorite platform, including Spotify and Apple. And please check out our other resources at productsthatcount.org. They're designed to accelerate your product career and make product the most important function in business. Until soon.